It's bad enough that the Vatican is hiding so much information about who we are. But now, in my opinion, it takes a lot of arrogance to look at what we know as the Lord's Prayer and believe it needs to be changed by a pope of all people. You know, I myself, I think that's an abomination, a big one. You know, you think that it's not perfect enough for you and it needs to be changed. I think that takes a lot of arrogance for a person to feel that way. Feel that way over scriptures that have been around for thousands of years, but now you have determined it's not good enough for you and it needs some tweaking. I think that takes a hell of a lot of nerve and arrogance. And like I said, it is a major abomination that he feels this way. This is what happens when we have Gentiles that are in control of information that doesn't even belong to them, but they feel empowered enough to go in there and change it. But, it's not the first time. Look at the slave Bible. Okay, 80 books. They only wanted to give 80 books to the slaves. So it's not the first time these folks performed an abomination on that book. And now you can see he wants to change a well-known prayer. It's known in Christianity. It's said a lot and very often. Although they are misguided in their beliefs, they do know what the Lord's Prayer is. So Pope Francis officially approved a change to the most famous prayer in Christianity. Really, it's the most famous prayer on earth. It really is. So let's go down to what he has a problem with in the whole thing. So the Catholic leader changed the phrase, "lead us not into temptation," to "do not let us fall into temptation." Mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew 6, this is chapter 6, verse 13, because the original translation implies that Yah induce temptation. The change officials say is closer to the original intent of the prayer. Woo, man. The arrogancy. And you remember, you still got the Chinese that are rewriting the Bible. I did that story a few months ago. I mean, I'm just astonished at the things that are going on out here. This really, this is crazy. I am one who falls. It is not him pushing me into temptation to then see how I have fallen, Francis explained to Italian broadcasters about the phrase change. A father does not do that. A father helps you when you helps to get you up immediately. So he's talking about when you fall. It's Satan who leads us into temptation. That's his department. Wow. That's all I have to say is wow. Look, Christianity and Catholics, my understanding over the years, they are the ones that are lacking in understanding when you start breaking down the scripture. But, they're saying that people online actually praise this change in the Lord's Prayer. And others thought it was an abomination. And I'm on the side of the people that say it's an abomination. And one user said it's like changing the Declaration of Independence. No, it really isn't. The Declaration of Independence is toilet paper in comparison, as far as I'm concerned. So, wow. That's all I can say. Let's go ahead and listen to this video here. As if we can listen to it.
Okay. So some controversy today from Pope Francis that has people sort of turning their heads a little bit on this one. The leader of the Catholic Church suggesting that the Lord's Prayer, the best known prayer in Christianity, which is prayed by not thousands, as I said earlier, but 2.2 billion people around the world, may undergo a little bit of an edit. He says the phrase, lead us not into temptation, suggests that God induces temptation in his followers, and do not let us fall into temptation would be more acceptable and closer to the original meaning of the prayer. So who better to sort this out for us than our good friend, Father Jonathan Morris, Fox News religion correspondent.
Thanks,
good to
Mark.
see you, Father Jonathan. So I still have a hard time with consubstantial. So I'm a little bit, reluctant to change. What's the meaning?
What he's saying is not, I want to change the words of Jesus. Nobody can change the words of Jesus. Jesus existed. Jesus was a historical figure. He said the words of the Our Father, not in English, but in Aramaic. And the best translation we have of the Our Father is the Greek. And then that Greek was translated into so many different languages. And those translations are very different. In English, it says, lead us not into temptation. But guess what? Jesus didn't speak English. And it's really kind of bad theology, as well as even in the Italian. But for example, in the Spanish, it says, no nos dejes caer. In other words, don't let us fall into temptation, if that makes sense. He's saying that the translation isn't very good because God never makes us fall or never leads us into temptation. He actually allows us to be tempted, but we have to make a choice. Does that make sense?
I think so. The Pope is obviously from Argentina. So, in his experience, it didn't sound the way it sounds now that he is dealing with the English language more. I mean, I guess my question is, why did it take so long? If this is wrong, if it doesn't line up with theology, why did it take?
Well, think of it. We pray this all the time. 2.2 billion Christians pray this all the time. And we don't think that God is the one forcing us into temptation. We understand that he allows us to be tempted. But I think all evangelicals, Catholics, mainline Protestant Christians would say, God does not lead us into temptation. It's a bad translation, honestly. Go back to the Greek. We don't know exactly what he said in Aramaic in this case, but go back to the Greek, and it's much closer to a lot of translations. That is, don't let us.
Well, what about the argument that everything
temptation
comes from God, right? So
evil
whatever
comes
into your life in different ways was, sort of put there for you to learn a lesson. Put there for you.
God never does evil. God never does evil. So God doesn't create evil. Evil is the absence of good, actually. Okay, so God creates everything that's good. And he never leads us into temptation. Like, you now be tempted. No, he allows us to experience life. And he
also. When is this change happening? When do I have to start changing?
You know what? It's already changed in so many languages. So in other words, our experience is like, oh my gosh, that's such a big deal. But in so many languages, it's much closer to.
I think it's easier than consubstantial. I think I can make this change more easily.
Well, very few people know consubstantial, but you do, Martha. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, y'all. I don't know. I can't take Gentiles making these changes to words that really is not for them. That was for us. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. I guess we are going to see anything in these last days. Almost anything. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.